Masechet Nedarim, Daf Gimel. We mentioned yesterday that besides saying and making a neder directly, like saying this bread is prohibited to me or it is like a korban, that's the normal way of making a neder. One also can create a neder by using a nickname, a kinui. Instead of saying korban, you say kunam. That works, and that's considered deoraita. It's just another word, and once a word becomes used and is understood and known in such a way that it means the same thing as the other one, so then that's just also applicable, and you don't even really need a pasuk to say so, because that's it. Kunam now means korban. But another way to effectuate a neder is through a yad, an abbreviation. One just says, anything that I will eat from you, will be prohibited, but you don't say the rest of the sentence. That also works if it's clear that that is your intention. We mentioned that that was actually derived by the rabbis, and so that's why it's a different. That's why we mentioned it first, because we like to mention things that were derived by the rabbis first. So now we're going to ask about that. Where do we derive, where is it written, that abbreviations can also create a neder obligation? From Nazir, Ish ki yafli lindor neder Nazir lehazir laHashem. Here is the full pasuk. Daber Yisrael v'amata alehem Ish or Isha ki yafli lindor neder Nazir lehazir ladonai. So you see that there's some double language here. Lindor neder and Nazir and lehazir. So we're going to learn it from here. And now we're going to quote a baraita to do this. Ve'tanya, Nazir lehazir. Why does it have extra words, Nazir and lehazir? It could have just said kintinor neder, and then it becomes a Nazir. Lasot kinuye nizirut kenzirut, vidot nizirut kenzirut. So the answer is that teach us that regarding within the sphere of Nazir, that if you have a nickname for a Nazir, also you'll be a Nazir, like Nazik if he says, or also if he says an abbreviation. He just says ehe, right? I will be, and it's clear from this context that he wants to be a Nazir. Then that also works. Okay. And li ela bin zirut bin darim enayin. So now that I know that regarding the zirut, the nicknames and abbreviations make someone a Nazir. How do I know that that's true regarding regular Nedarim, that I will to prohibit myself to bread or anything? Tamod Omar, Ish ki yafli lindor neder Nazir lehazir laHashem. In that very same pasuk that we just quoted, it says lindor neder and Nazir. So makish Nazirut Nedarim, Nedarim Nazirut. So by putting these words back to back, it shows that whatever laws applies to Nazirut also applied to regular Nedarim. And whatever applies to Nedarim, applied to Nazir also. Ma Nazirut asabo yedot Nazirut kinzirut. Af Nedarim asabehem yedot Nedarim kindarim. So just like as we know regarding Nazir, that abbreviations of a Nazir effectuate, so too regarding a Neder, if you say if you make a intimation, an abbreviation, that also creates a Neder. So there you go. That's how we learn it from the double language in Nazir, and then a Hekesh from there, because they're back to back in the pasuk to Nedarim. All right, now that we opened up this channel to make this comparison, we can also learn things the other way, from Neder to Nazir. Ma Nedarim ober bebal yachel ubebal te'acher. Af Nazirut ober bebal yachel ubebal te'acher. Regarding Neder, it says lo yachel devaro. Someone should not make his language profane. In other words, if I promise that you're going to do something or you're not going to do something, then you have to fulfill your word and don't profane it. And so and if you do, then you violate bal yachel. Also, bal te'acher is do not delay. Delay, that would apply like if I say I'm going to bring an olah. Then I have to bring it that day, but I can't delay it too much. How long is too long? So Gemara elsewhere says you can't wait more than 3 regalim. If you promised it before Pesach, then you have to bring it before Sukkot. You can't wait till 3. So it actually depends on what time of the year. It'll be anywhere between 6 months and about 11 months. If you made a vow right before Shavuot, then you have to bring it before Pesach. Okay, so that's how we know. So that's true for Nedarim. So the law is also a Nazir. If he fails to be a Nazir, he'll violate Bal Yachel. If he delays making himself a Nazir, that will be Bal Te'acher. Gemara at the end of the stuff is going to ask, how could you violate this? After all, once you say, I am a Nazir, you are a Nazir immediately. Even if you go and violate it and go and drink wine, you violated the law of Nazir, but you are actually a Nazir at that time. So how can you violate that? How can you delay it? Okay, we'll answer that question later. This is the end of the Braita. Just like regarding a neder, a father can nullify the vow of his daughter, and a husband can nullify the vow of his wife. Regarding general vows, so too that is true regarding a nazir. If a woman says, I'm a nazir, the father can, or the husband can undo their vows. All right, that is the Baraita. And that's it. There you go. That's how we learn it. Now, we ask, nazir lehazir, nedarim nameh ketiv lindor neder vekesha lamali. And now we ask a good question. Why do we need this hekesh? That the word nazir and neder appear back to back. All I need are the words lindor and neder by themselves. In that same pasuk, that it's talking about neder and has a double language, lindor, neder, and I can learn from that double language that will include a yad. An abbreviation is also of a neder is also a neder. Why are you bothering to learn it from nazir, and then from nazir you transfer the law to neder? Just as nazir has a double language, lindor neder is a double language, so learn it directly about neder. So the answer is ikatab neder lindor kedichtav nazir lahazir kedikaamart lasirich hekesha. The answer is that yes, you're right. If the pasuk had said neder lindor, just as it's the same form as nazir lehazir, where you have a noun and then a verb, or so too here, nazir, a noun, lehazir, and a verb, then I would agree with you. As you said, I could learn that from that noun verb combination that there's the abbreviations for a neder are in fact also effectuate a neder, and I would not need the juxtaposition. I could learn it from that by itself, right? Even though this word neder lindor is in the context of nazir, but they're superfluous there, right? So, and I could learn neder by itself. That's true. But hashta dichtiv lindor neder dibra Torah k'sham adam. But look at the pasuk. It does not say neder lindor. It actually says the other way around, lindor neder. So lindor neder is the usual Hebrew language. Very often you say the verb and then the noun to do the action, lindor neder. And therefore I would say the Torah speaks in the language of men, right? That's a basic principle held by Rabbi Ishmael famously and other sages, and therefore I cannot learn anything from the double language if it's in a normal order, whereas nazir lehazir is an unusual order. That's why I want to learn it from nazir lehazir and then use the hekesh to transfer it to neder. All right, good. So that is a good answer. But it's only a good answer according to the opinion that says the Torah speaks in the language of man. But there's another opinion, that of Rabbi Akiva, who says the Torah does not speak in the regular human language. I mean, it is in Hebrew. We have to be able to understand it, but it doesn't use regular grammar the way we do. We often repeat ourselves, double up, say it again after we said it, then we say it again, just for emphasis. We do that sometimes. But the Torah is very precise and would not use two words where it could use one word. And so therefore, Hai Lindor Neder, what is that opinion going to do with this double language, Lindor Neder? You have to do something with it. It's an extra word. And the answer is Darish Le, Lasot Yedot Nedarim Kindarim, Umekish Nezirut Lindarim. Nazir lehazir darish le melamed shehanezirut chal ala nezirut. Okay, so according to that opinion, we will learn the lindor neder from that we'll learn that, yes, abbreviations of Nedarim are like Nedarim, and in fact, now that could be the source, and we'll say, oh, we know that from Nazir also, because Nazir is connected to Neder. So now he flips the arrow the other way. If so, the words Nazir Lahazir are extra. What are you going to do with that? Why didn't that double language? So for that, we learn something different, that one Nazirut can take effect upon another Nazirut. If someone says, I am a Nazir, and then he says again, I am a Nazir, does it become a double Nazir? There could be two ways to understand this. Either, let's say he says, I'm Hareni Nazir, and then a few days later, he'll be for 30 days. That's standard. And then a few days later, he says, Hareni Nazir again. Does that mean he's going to have a second term of being a Nazir, back to back? So others understand it that maybe if he says, Hareni Nazir, can you be a Nazir twice at the same time, such that you would violate two sins if you went and drank wine, and so on. Okay, but more likely it's one after the other. So yes, this teaches that you can be a Nazir and then another Nazir. One obligation can overlap with the next one. ולמאן דאמר דיברה תורה כלשון בני אדם ונזיר להזיר דריש לעשות ידות נזירות כנזירות שהנזירות חל על הנזירות מן עלה. Okay, now back according to the other opinion, that would be Ishmael, that says Torah speaks in regular language, and the words Nazir Lehazir, he used that to learn abbreviations, and from there we took Nazir and we pointed it in the direction and applied it also to Neder. Since he, according to that opinion, we already used up Nazir Lehazir for abbreviations, where would that opinion learn this law that you can be a Nazir upon another Nazir? If you say it twice, then you'll have to be 30 days and then another 30 days. How would they know that law? Well, it could be that he doesn't think that you can double up on being a Nazir. There isn't a machloket about that, and he might say, no, once you take upon yourself being a Nazir, that's it, you are a Nazir, and if you say in the middle, I am a Nazir, it doesn't add anything, because you are already a Nazir, and so you're not a Nazir twice, and you don't have to be a Nazir afterwards. So maybe he doesn't think so, that's why he doesn't do anything with, he doesn't need a derivation for that law, because he doesn't agree with it. But let's say we do follow that law, that you can be a Nazir double, and you also think that Torah speaks in the language of man, in which case you can't learn anything from Lindor and Neder, so then we only have one, Nazir Lehazir. We already used that for abbreviation. Where are we going to learn that Nazirut Chal al Nazirut from? So the answer is Nema Kera Lizor Ma Lehazir Shemat Mina Terte. Oh, from within that word, it could have said Lizor. It's a shorter word, and that would have already meant to become a Nazir. So Lehazir is a more emphatic form of the word. So Nazir, Lehazir, I can actually learn two things from it. One, from Lehazir, is that you can be a Nazir and be a Nazir again. And from the double words, we learn that abbreviations work for Nazir. All right, so that's how we learn it. Demapek le liadot min lindor neder, v'itana demapek le min all that was from the Bavli, but the Bavli is noting that in Eretz Yisrael there was also a machloket about this, and there were some who learned the law of abbreviations from Lindor Neder, and that would be according to the opinion that we just saw above, that the Torah does not speak in the language of mankind, so you can learn something from Lindor and Neder. And others learn it from a different pasuk altogether, he should do everything that comes out of his mouth, and that includes anything, even in an abbreviation. He said it, so if he said it, he has to, you fill it in, kechol, right? Everything that he meant to say is also included, and so even the one who said Dibra Torah Kelshon Bnei Adam, and we don't learn it from Lindor Neder, he would be able to learn it from that this pasuk, which is this is in the context of the pasuk we quoted yesterday in Bimbar 30 regarding all Nedarim and Shavuot. So we learn it directly from there. So according to either of these opinions, you don't have to learn it from Nazir and transfer it to Neder. We learn it from the words of Neder or from the pasuk about Neder itself. All right, Amar Mor. Now that we quoted that law, that baraita, we're going to ask a further question, that one I mentioned. So regarding a neder, if you violate the neder, then you violate bal yachel. You made the neder profane, and if you delay in accomplishing the neder, then you violate do not delay. So bishlama bal yachel din darim ashkachat la kegon damar kikar zo ochal velo achala or b'mishum bal yachel debaro. We understand how it's how one could violate the do not profane regarding a regular neder. If he says I will eat this and he doesn't eat it, so then he violates that this do not make your words profane. Ella bal yachel de nizirut hechi mashkachat la. But how can you violate? Don't profane your words regarding becoming a nazir. Kevan damar haneni nazir havale nazir. A person just says haneni nazir, and automatically that person is a nazir. He doesn't have to do anything else, right? They are a nazir, and whether he keeps the law of nazir or not, he is a nazir. So if he violates it, he'll be violating a nazir law. Achal kam lebe bal yochal. If he eats grapes, then he's violating the nazir law that says don't eat grapes. Shata kam lebe bal yishteh. If he drinks wine, so he's violating the nazir law that he shouldn't drink wine. In other words, he is a nazir, right? He kept his promise that I'm going to be a nazir. He is a nazir. Now he's in the zone of being a nazir, so yeah, there are laws there if he keeps the law properly or not. But how could it be that he says I'll be a nazir and then he's not a nazir? He is a nazir. Answer is it's actually to make him violate two prohibitions. If he says Hareni Nazir and he goes and drinks wine, then he violates the Nazir law of drinking wine. That's true. But he also violates the Neder, because built in to the vow that I'm going to be a Nazir is a vow that I'm not going to drink wine, and therefore he violates the Neder part of it and the specific Nazir law. So yes, it is possible to violate Bal Yachel regarding a Nazir. Okay, good. We answered that question. But now the next one. Bal Te'achel Dinizirut Hechi Mashkachat La Kevan Damar Hareni Nazir Ave Le Nazir. How can you possibly delay the becoming a Nazir? Once a person says Hareni Nazir, it kicks in right away. You are a Nazir right away. So where would there be a case of a delay? Unlike an animal, you say I'm going to bring this animal, you have to make sure to do it within the 3 regalim. So why would we need this baraita to teach me that don't delay being a Nazir? How could you ever possibly delay being a Nazir? And achal kam lebe bal yochal. Once he says Ahineni Nazir, he's a Nazir right away. And if he eats, it doesn't push off the Nazirut. He violates the Nazir law. Okay, so that's the question. The answer is Beomer kishe erse ehe Nazir. Let's say he doesn't say ehe Nazir now. He says when I feel like it, when I decide, then I'll be a Nazir. Not right away. I'm going to be a Nazir sometime in the future. And there, in that case, so if he doesn't do it, he's delaying it. All right, so maybe that's it. When he doesn't say I'm going to be a Nazir right now. Wait a second. But that doesn't work, because if he says whenever I feel like it, then I'll be a Nazir. So then he can delay it, right? Because he's not violating his word by delaying it further and further. If I say I'm going to go to the gym one day, right? That's fine. Even if I wait many years and don't go to the gym, I only promised that I will do it one day. I didn't say when, and so even if he pushes it off, he's not violating the stipulation of his neder. So it can't be that case. Amar Rava kegon Amar. It can't be a case also where he says, I'll be a Nazir in 6 months from now, because then that's the date he has to do it. And if he delays that, then he automatically becomes, if he says, I will be a Nazir, that's in 6 months, then he automatically becomes a Nazir in 6 months, whether he wants to or not. And so there's no possibility of delaying it. So here's the answer. He vows that I will not die until I become a Nazir. I promise that I will be a Nazir before I die. Now, nobody knows when they're going to die. Therefore, they have an obligation to become a Nazir right away. Because who knows? So he must take upon himself becoming a Nazir from that moment on, even though the language doesn't trigger it automatically. So because he said, I promise I will be a Nazir before I die, so then he still has to make a decision to say, okay, I'm going to be a Nazir, now or tomorrow, whenever it's going to be. So that's a case where he may not delay it, because since he never knows when he's going to die, he has to start right away, even though it doesn't kick in automatically. He actually has to decide, I'm going to do it now. To back up this answer, we're going to give an analogy to a similar case of a get. If a man tells his wife, here is your get, it's not going to kick in right now as I'm giving it to you, but rather it'll be a short time, it says 1 hour, whatever, 1 minute. It'll be right before my death. A man actually may want to do this if he wants to prevent his wife from having to do yibum as a widow. So if she's a divorcee, so they can remain married, but then be a divorcee right before he dies, so she won't have to deal with his awful brother. Okay, so if you do that, then if he's a Kohen and she is not a Bat Kohen, and now normally when a Bat Yisrael is married to a Kohen, she can eat terumah. In this case, when he makes this kind of stipulation, she has to stop eating terumah immediately, because who knows when he's going to die, right? At any point, she's sitting at home and eating terumah, and he might get hit by a car and die, and then that she will be violating eating terumah, because the second he dies, she's not allowed to eat terumah. They could be eating together, and she's eating terumah, and he chokes to death, and now that bite that she had is prohibited. So therefore, it kicks in the obligation to stop eating terumah, or rather the privilege of eating terumah stops immediately, even though if she did eat terumah and he didn't die, she would not violate, but she has to worry about it just in case. And that would be the same thing here. Although this man does not become a Nazir automatically right away, he has an obligation to become a Nazir right away, and if he delays that would be a case of delaying. Okay, so Alma Amrinan Kol Shata Veshata Dilma Mayit Hachana Milartar Havan Nazir Tamrinan Dilma Hashta Mayit. This is the conclusion of Rava's explanation. And just like over there, we worry at any moment he may die. So too, immediately he's going to be a Nazir. He should be a Nazir immediately, because at any point he may die. So he should take upon himself the Nazirut immediately. And if he doesn't, that would be Baal Te'acher. Rava's answer to the question is thus acceptable, and we'll see a few more solutions to how you could have a Baal Te'acher regarding Nazir on the next daf. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.